that on Facebook, and then that's all there is to it. And I'll go on YouTube, and I think people can comment there too.
Yeah, and they could also comment on the post, like in the discussion
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we
on
are
the
on
page.
YouTube.
Okay.
Hello, YouTube.
How do I make it so I can't hear it though? Because the delay. Uh-oh.
You should be able to mute. Maybe you can mute, like if it's playing or something on YouTube. Maybe you could like just mute it. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
So how do I get the link, Deb?
I'm coming, Marcy.
Sorry. Yeah, we need some background music for this chaos.
Right? That's a good idea.
Give us a wah, wah, wah.
Hey, Marcy, I just emailed it to you. See if you can get it.
Okay, got it.
Cool. So that's interesting. What?
I see my face. I have to go. Okay, we are good. Oh my God, we're just like
Okay.
millennials, Deb.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
So,
got it.
so I'm just
So-
gonna
so the
just
one
in
thing
case
is,
anybody tunes
um,
in.
You have to turn off the, like, if you're monitoring what it looks like on Facebook, just press mute on like the speaker button on your end, because I can.
Oh,
Yeah, I could hear it coming back, so we definitely don't want
I
that.
see my face. I have to go.
I muted it, so hopefully you're not
Okay,
hearing
we are
it from
good.
me anymore.
Yeah, Marcy needs to
God,
mute
we're
hers.
just like millennials, Deb.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
So,
got it.
so I'm just
So-
gonna
so the
just
one
in
thing
case
is,
anybody tunes in.
You have to turn.
Oh, now I can't hear you, Josh.
No, I was just
No.
waiting for it to be muted because we could have started a feedback loop.
Okay.
Oh, that
So
was
we
Yeah.
can hear ourselves on Zoom. I've got us live on YouTube.
Good. Now I'm not hearing the YouTube because you muted it, I guess, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
muted
okay
it.
now, right?
All right. Perfect. That would have been. Yeah. No. It would have actually just totally caused an error
Yeah.
because it would have just kept feeding off of itself.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the speakers would have picked up. You know how it works.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the microphones would have picked up the other sound, and then it would have been.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Okay. Wow. Okay, so for the people that are joining us live on YouTube, I'm not sure if anyone is yet, but
Probably not.
Well, on Facebook, you did post it on Facebook.
Yeah, I
too,
did.
right?
I just put the link there.
When you post the link, does it actually show a video
Yes.
playing? Okay.
It shows just a still of it, and then the link is there, and they click on the link, and then they'll be in the YouTube.
In the YouTube. Okay. All right.
Josh, one really important thing. Do you say Cohen for your last name?
Yes, Cohen.
Okay, good. That would be very important to know.
Well, yeah, I would correct you. We're already live, so.
I know, exactly. Oh my gosh. Okay, I have to make sure my other recording thing is still. Oh gosh, did that stop? Shoot. Oh my gosh, we have never had technical, interesting stuff quite like this. Okay, that's.
We have
still
we
going.
have a whistler somewhere in the background.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just putting it on my page, and then I'm going to put it on the Arts Board page too.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Anyone who's tuning in on YouTube, we're just getting things set. We usually live stream from Waupaca Local Live's Facebook page, but there seem to be some technical difficulties tonight. So instead, we've chosen to live stream from our Loving Awareness YouTube page. Josh ensures us that the page is that our channel's going to blow up now in the best way because he's here with us. So that's so great.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Okay, Josh, do you have those liners ready?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
You're so fantastic. That's so great. Okay.
All right.
All right, are we ready?
I think we're ready.
All right. So did I say the first one?
Marcy, should we have him record the liners before we actually officially say welcome to Waupaca Local Live? I haven't
Yeah,
asked him.
let's just do it. Let's just get it over with.
What,
All right,
the
you ready?
liners or the opening?
The liners.
Okay.
All right. You ready for that?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Josh Cohen, and this is Waupaca Live.
Nope. Waupaca Local.
Ah! Oops. Are you ready?
Gosh.
You ready?
We're ready.
Hi, I'm Josh Cohen, and this is Waupaca Local Live. All right, number 2. Ready? Hi, I'm Josh Cohen on Waupaca Radio FM 96.3. All right, third one. Hi, I'm Josh Cohen on 99.1 WAUP.
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 I'm pretty sure they're going to use that.
Oh, no. Well,
We're
yes.
doing this Frankenstein radio show with the community theater, and I had to write all these jingles and stuff. And so I stole that off of the Donald Fagen off the Nightfly.
Oh, okay.
No, da, 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 for WAUP, and then WILW is WILW.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Marcy Boku Show.
Yeah.
All right, Marcy, why don't you open the show
All right.
officially, okay? Do
Okay,
your
well,
thing.
We are live from the Zoom/home studios of our hosts and co-hosts and our guests. We are Waupaca Local Live pandemic version, and we're so excited to be here. We finally got through our technical difficulties, and we rock because we figured it out. We're live on YouTube tonight, which is awesome. And I am Marcy Boku from the Waupaca Community Arts Board and Waupaca Local Live, and I have my lovely co-host, who's
Deb
actually to
Gerke.
my left, Deb Gerke. And we have with us tonight bassist extraordinaire Josh Cohen, and we're so excited to have him. We met him. Can I just tell how I met Josh?
Please.
Because
Sure.
the show is about me, so I have a little sword here in case I need it.
She's got weapons. Watch out.
I have
I've got a
weapons.
pen.
Yeah. Facebook. Anyway, so the Waupaca Community Arts Board has done a Bach Festival for many years, every other year. And one time, my husband and I were in Madison, and I heard this Bach music being played on a bass off in the distance. And I looked around. I'm like, who the hell is playing the Bach on the bass? And there's Josh sitting on an amp. It was cold out. Remember that? And he's playing. What were you playing?
I don't know, maybe this.
Yes. Playing an invention. And they're tough enough to play on the piano, much less the bass. And so I saw him, and I thought, wow, that is incredible. We've got to get that guy, whoever he is. And so walked up to Josh, and he was extremely personable. We exchanged contact information. We were like over a year out from the next Bach Festival, but we stayed in contact. I posted some videos, and people went nuts. I mean, we posted your videos just from your street performing days, which was quite a while ago. And people were in awe, and they're like, get that guy to Waupaca. And so then we got him to Waupaca. And what's really weird is that was only a year ago. And because all the things that have happened in our world, that seems like 10 years ago to me. But that was literally 1 year ago, like right now, because we had the Bach Festival, I believe, in October, right, Josh?
Yeah, it was October 18th.
So he came up. Literally, yeah. So exactly a year ago, he came up to Waupaca and did a couple of different really awesome things. two things that you did were we did a storybook trail, so we went into the schools and we read a book about Bach to third and fourth graders, and then they had these breakout sessions with musicians, and Josh was one of them, and the kids were just like freaking out. So we did it at the Chain School and the Waupaca Learning Center, and boy, oh boy, they would love to have you back. And then that night, he played at the brewery, which closed since then. I hate to tell you, Josh, but 22 Lakes is closed. But he did Bach in the brewery, and it was a packed house, and people were just mesmerized by this person playing all this Baroque music on a bass and giving us a master class, basically telling us all about it. So we thought this would be the perfect person to have on Waupaca Local Live a year later, and so much has happened in your life in that last year. So, Deb, why don't you kind of step in and bring us up to speed with Josh? We'll let you talk, we promise, Josh.
Yeah, that was the best introduction ever. Josh Cohen on Waupaca Local Live. We're in for some really special treats. Marcy's clearly super excited to have you back, Josh, and hoping that you'll be back even more for some events coming up. So the way that we normally open the show after this amazing introduction is for you to lead us in with the first song. Josh is going to share a small handful of songs with us tonight. And Josh, we'll talk more. We've got lots of questions for you, but lead us in, because really the music is the showcase. So tell us what the first song is and a little bit about it, and then just go right in.
Okay, so this first track is entitled. It's titled Frostbite, and it's on my new CD, Freedom, which is my second solo bass album. And the first inkling of an idea for this piece came after back in my street performing days, and I was trying to perform outside in Madison at the beginning of December. And I remember having to stop just because my strings were so cold, and my finger was peeling for about a week. So I think that's called frost nip. And then during that time, I just had this musical idea, and I just put the two things together. So, anyways, here is Frostbite.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. That's
No,
so amazing.
before we started recording the show tonight, we were talking about how we've hardly ever had instrumentalists on, and I'm thinking, man, I've got that song stuck in my head already,
Oh,
and
Yeah.
thank you.
it's an instrumental song, but that was just fabulous.
So, so fabulous. Seriously. Oh my gosh. I feel like you're a magician, Josh.
Yeah.
There's musician and magician. Sometimes those lines are blurred. I think it's true with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Josh, this first segment, when we talk together, we need to know where this all started. So, you don't have to take us back to the day you were born, but definitely take us
Well, I
back.
was born on August 28th.
Beautiful. Take us back to how this all began, though. Take us back to the beginning of the musical journey.
The musical journey. Yeah. So it started. My dad played guitar when I was a kid. And I never got drawn to it. I did, however, get a bunch of his Beatles albums, well, CDs he gave me, and I was singing along with them. So that was sort of my first sort of musical escape at about age 9, was just listening to the Beatles and learning the lyrics and singing the melodies and sort of just the emotion that's connected to all the music. And at about age 12, right before I turned 13, my younger brother decided to take up the guitar. My dad gave him a guitar, and then he's like, "Hey, Josh, you want to play guitar too?" And I was like, "Well, fine. I guess since Dan's doing it, I'll do it too. Whatever." And then, so I got this electric guitar, and then I kept losing the pick. I had it for about 3 days or something. I kept losing the pick, and I was just started playing like this, and then my dad's like, "Whoa, maybe you should play bass." I'm like, "What's a bass?" And then he got this Fender 1983 Precision that was converted into a fretless, which means all the
Oh,
frets,
yeah.
all the metal frets were pulled out of it. And he said, "Well, Josh, if you learn where all the notes are and can play a few songs, then you can, by the time you see me next," my parents were divorced at the time, and he said, "You can keep it, but if you don't, I'm taking it back because it cost me $900 at a garage sale." And
So
I was
wait,
like, "Okay."
who's got it now, Josh? Did you get to keep it?
I did. I replaced the neck, but my friend Jason has it. We've been, the pandemic, I'm sure, will come up at some point. But one thing I've been doing during the pandemic is just trying to study with, a few teachers that I'm studying with, and then also some friends of mine that play different instruments. So one of them is quite a terrific pianist, Jason Kutz, and so I gave him one of my basses to hold on to, and then I've swapped lessons with him, and I taught him some bass. He's
Wow.
taught
Oh,
me
that's sweet.
some more
Lesson
piano.
swap. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
See?
so that's
Pandemic, what to do, lesson swap. That's one of them. That's
yeah,
beautiful.
build on your skills. This is the time to practice. It could also be time to try out some different avenues, work on things that you're going to publish, record, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Josh, has the bass always been your main squeeze? Or have there been any?
Yes, I mean, like I'm definitely glued to the role of the bass and the feel of the instrument. I took to pretty well. Although I've definitely been enamored with like all the parts in music, and I think that's why I started using this tapping technique that was first made popular by Stanley Jordan on guitar. Although it dates back much longer than that. Like even on these lute-like instruments in Turkey, there was sort of a form of tapping that was happening there.
And the
And
tapping,
I got drawn
Josh,
to that.
is the tapping what allows you to play the melody lines on top of the chords and?
Yes, exactly. That's what it helps with. So I call that polyphonic performance. That's the interesting thing with tapping for me. I think, hey, well, what would a band do, or what would a trio do? And then I try to emulate those parts, and it's very similar to solo piano. You're thinking in terms of an orchestra, or you're thinking at the same time. There's intrinsic sounds that the instrument has, and there's intrinsic things, qualities that the bass has. That last piece that you heard, uses a technique called slap bass. First and debatably like invented by Larry Graham of Sly and the Family Stone and Lewis Johnson sort of at the same time. And then so Marcus Miller is a bass player that I really admire, and so some elements that I've taken from his playing, I fused into Frostbite, and then also Victor Rudin is another one of my bass heroes, who took what Stanley Jordan did with the tapping and started doing that on the electric bass, and so that piece kind of meshes those two together. And then I go into one section where it's very much like a rhythm section and soloist in one. And that's more, I guess, maybe closer to what I'm trying to do, but it's all really connected. But that's a kind of piece that's not simply just saying, hey, what would a band do? Now do it on the bass. That piece is very much, well, what would a bass do? But then let's add some extra stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Very cool.
that's what I'm into. It means I have to practice a lot, but I do like practicing, and I like playing with people, and I play in bands all the time as well, where I just play normal bass, and so
Yeah.
Does that feel almost like you could do it sleepwalking, just doing the normal bass?
no, not really.
No.
Some aspects of it, in terms of it being one line versus two or three, that kind of part of it usually is fine. But no, it's different, and a lot of things you get good at them because you do them and you practice them, and it's not necessarily always. Sometimes, but but it's not necessarily that it's just more complicated. In some ways, it's more complicated. In other ways, it's simpler. Um, and yeah, playing a single line jazz solo in a bebop context could be far more difficult sometimes than playing multiple parts in a certain way. But it's not. It's hard to make those value judgments. So I no, there has been sort of some styles that I've played. I've played in some country bands before,
Oh, wow.
where I didn't feel like my part was very difficult. However, there was no limit to how much you could groove and make the band sound as good as possible and listen to everyone else. And that was what was good about those kind of projects that I did, was really just being very aware of the entire sound of the band.
That's an amazing point. I think that's what for me distinguishes a really good bass player from one that's just okay. Is I feel like the bass is like, I don't know, it's the bass has to be listening and has to be intuiting where the music is going to go, and you can add life or take life away through the bass line. So I love that you brought that up. I feel like that's what makes a bass player really stand out, is that foundation and that support and the way that you're intuitively feeling where the music is going.
Yeah, it's always a compliment if you ever get told, can you play a little bit more, or can you turn up a little bit more? Like that's like, okay, good.
Yeah.
That's usually
Yeah.
what you want to hear, rather than can you play a little less, or
Yeah.
because it usually means that you're doing something right, and you just need to do a
Oh,
little
you're
bit
doing
more of it.
something that's elevating what's already coming
Yeah.
forward. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Neat. Love it.
Well, I think we want to talk a lot more, but I think we're ready for another song if you're up
All
for it.
right, another song. Okay,
Want to just
so
lead us in and tell us about it? And
yeah, so back to my album. I'm playing all music on my album, not playing any covers today. So this is one of the tracks. It's called "It's a Sin," and the sin is trying to play drums on the bass. That's the sin, the cardinal sin that I'm breaking. Don't worry, drummers. Still want to hire you for gigs. But the I have this technique. I call it crack bass. I don't know. That was the name I came up with, and I basically create the sound of like the crack of a snare by just smacking the string here, and then a bass drum sound by hitting the string right here. And so I'll do a beat like. So this piece, use it. So here we go. It's a sin.
Josh Cohen on Waupaca Local Live.
Thank you.
Oh, that's so great. It's pretty cool because I kind of, so like I said before, I'm not even sure if it was when we were talking before, it doesn't matter. This idea of having instrumentalist on the show and like just allowing yourself to like get into the groove of the sound of the music, and you're not caught in the lyric story. So it kind of allows every person to like feel their own story in the music. Is that true? It's true for me.
Yeah, I can't from experiential, my own experience. I was always drawn to like the sound of someone's voice. Like even when I listen to lyrical music, the first thing that I'd be drawn to would be the melody and the sound of the person's voice, like in the way of like doing impressions, like the tone, like and that kind of thing. And I would so often not. I know the lyrics to a song and never think about what they mean, and so
Yeah.
that's my own propensity. With the poetry of the lyrics has been sort of a later thing that I've sort of been like, hey, wait, I wasn't paying attention to what that song actually meant in terms of the lyrics explicitly or in terms of metaphorically. So I sort of it is cool that lyrical music has that next layer, that it means something, those lyrics on paper, beyond the melodies that were written to it. And that's what's kind of cool in a way. um, it's that's two disciplines coming together, just like dance and music, poetry and music. It's two things. So when you hear instrumental music, um, it's more just the musical side of things. And of course there are probably ways of emulating poetry and words that does exist, but not in the explicit way that
Yeah,
lyrics
but
do.
that's yeah, that's perfect. And I think it's super. I don't know. I'm just noticing, like listening to your music, that I like the openness. I like the openness of being able to have that interpretation.
Well, it's kind of like also it's like listening. Obviously, there's a lot of other instrumental music, but classical music is like
Hmm.
that. And sometimes, like you just mentioned that you named that last song "The Sin" or
It's a
"It's a
sin.
Sin,"
Hmm.
and then the previous one was "Frostbite." And so you kind of gave us a flavor of what to think about. And I find that a lot of classical musicians did that. Like, for instance, Mendelssohn did a song called "Regret." And when you listen to it, it brings you into your own feelings of regret. But not to get
Hmm.
too deep here, we do have a couple of questions from people that are listening on
Oh,
YouTube. And
cool.
thanks for doing all the work out there, everybody, and finding us because we know we made it really hard for you. It was like a treasure hunt. Um, but I've got a couple questions. One is from Ben Vandenbroek. Josh, does that sound familiar? He wants to know if you, when you're rehearsing, if you do a lot of rehearsing with a metronome.
Yes, I do, but I go through periods where there I'll go through times when I'm using a metronome constantly.
Okay.
Um, but as of late, it's the thing I add to the mix later on. I'll practice improvising sometimes with a metronome, and that in that sense, that's using the metronome like right off the bat. But if I'm sort of working on the timing of pieces that are already part of my repertoire and I have under my fingers and understand what's harmonically and melodically happening, then I'll use a metronome in ways to just improve on the time. So I'll make it so the metronome is just on beat one or just on beat two, or like things like that sort of stretch the limits, or I'll put it on the off beats or different things like that, to just really focus me to just work on the timing. Another thing that I do that I find really helpful for coordination and timing, and I'll do this sometimes before I start taking a metronome, is practice counting out loud, no matter how complex. If it's very complex, then I'll work on a small amount of music rather than a whole piece sometimes. But I'm always trying to do that, to sort of understand the grid where all this happens.
You mentioned that at the Bach Festival, I think people were asking, how you played some of those inventions and all those different pieces that you played. And I remember you telling a couple of people, sometimes I practice one measure at a time. And there's such wisdom in that for any musician that's trying to master anything. People don't just sit down and just whip this stuff out. You might have to work on one measure at a time. So that sounds like what you're speaking to right now is just.
It's yeah, and it's work on it in a way that, like, I'll take one or two measures and then play it in different keys, or change it from minor to major, or try to understand, if it's a particular chord, what extensions are in the melody. So it's this the practice room, like 75% of the time, is very analytical. The performance is trying to just be intuitive, and you could call it spiritual, that kind of thing. But the practice room is that time when you're, at least a big chunk of it, unless you're just practicing performing, that's a different thing. Practicing being in a performance setting,
Wow.
that's. But if it's, most of my practice is very mental or sometimes just physical, and it's, a lot of thinking and planning and figuring out, and uh, I guess it's where art and science kind of meet, and music is
Right.
certainly one thing where that's true, and there could be different ratios of it, and once you sort of understand something really well enough, and it's then you don't have to think about the science of it. It's
Right.
just automatic, and it's just like going for a walk. But sometimes when it's new, you really have to kind of force it in here sometimes, and
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where the work comes
Wow.
in, right?
that's where the work comes in, and having a good teacher. So I teach all the time, but I have two teachers right now that I'm studying a lot with, right? So
So great to hear that. I mean, I really,
Yeah.
honestly, I think I'm so glad that we're doing this show and that it'll be recorded because we can allow other musicians to watch this and just pick up on some of your pearls because you are such an inspiration and you're a virtuoso. But the fact is that you practice your ass off, right?
and
And
it's a privilege to be able
yes.
to. It's a privilege to be able to. It really is.
Can we just speak a little bit about your instrument itself? I mean, I think we can see it on our screen that it is
Yeah.
not a regular bass. It's a six-string bass, not even, basses usually have four strings, and then there's this whole deal about the five string, but you had to go one notch further. And can you explain to us where is the typical bass tuning in between those six strings? Are the extra strings lower and lower, or is there a lower and a higher, and
Right.
blah blah blah?
Blah blah blah. Well, this is a Ken.
Yes.
By the way, this is a Ken Smith BSR 6EG. It's a very
Okay.
nice bass. I bought it with my student loan back in Canada, which I'm sure you're gonna get to later. So this was back in 2007. It's a
Okay.
very very nice bass. It is an expensive bass, but plays like a dream. And it's a very thin body, and it's a wide body that gives you support, and it's very thin, which you could probably see. And yes, it is six string. So a standard four string bass is the inner four strings, one,
Okay.
two,
That's what I
three,
thought.
four, and then I get one extra on top, which you might say is the bottom, but I think of it as the top because it's the
Yeah, it's the top.
higher pitch string. That's the way most musicians start thinking of it. And then this string up here, the lowest string, it always
Uh-huh.
gets confusing for people, is the B string. So this is a B, this is a C. Now the thing to really understand more than the letter names is the ratios. They are all a perfect fourth away, which is
Ooh.
the same da 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 da. So that's a perfect fourth da dum ba da. So every one of these notes, bo 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 bo. So all of those
Okay.
are perfect fourths, but people tune it in different ways. But that's sort of standard tuning, and that's kind of what I've never really experimented too much with alter tunings.
But I
And
do have a question as to why you have a capo on it.
yeah, so it's not a capo. It's something called the fret
Oh.
wrap. What Victor
I thought it was
Rubin.
just a sweatband because your bass works so hard that the sweat.
Right. Yeah. So it's one of my bass heroes, Victor Wooten, back in the '90s. Him and his brother Reggie Wooten, they were using hair bands, and they were putting it around their bass, and it's just to sort of muffle it. And there's different reasons, and I'll explain in a second. This is actually called a fret wrap. It's been branded by Groove Gear, which is one of my sponsors, if you will. And so I use these. I go through one a month or every 6 weeks or whatever, and I could have it over here, which means it's doing absolutely nothing, and all the strings can be open. I could have it a little bit, or I could have it like further in, and it's very helpful to me when I'm playing the tapping stuff
Is that back?
because it stops things from ringing out. So if I did that same phrase,
Oh.
now
Wow.
I could play this stuff without it, like but what ends up happening is especially once you start working with two or sometimes even three lines happening, then you're constantly doing this dance of flattening your hands just to mute the sound instead of worrying about playing. So it kind of turns it into a keyboard instrument.
Yeah.
Think about the clavichords actually, unlike a piano, which has one to two to even three strings per note, even per note. The clavichord was, might have had, 60 keys or whatever, very quiet instrument, and there might be 20 strings, and then there was metal tangents that would kind of come down and at changing the pitch of the string, but just like you would on a bass or a guitar, and so basically it kind of turns it into a clavinet or clavichord, right? In some regard, because I can hit a note and it's not going to ring. So for me, I find that useful. And then when I'm playing fingerstyle, I don't usually use it. But maybe there's been a couple things years ago when I was recording. I was like, oh, I could do this cleaner if I do this. But I'm definitely, it's really good to be able to mute with your hands, strings ringing out.
So,
Very technical
for
there.
those of you that are listening, you can apply for your credits to the Waupaca
Right?
Award. And we are charging $99 credit this month. A good deal.
Oh my
There we
gosh.
go.
So
It's
Wow.
not really accredited, but apparently you can have a university that gives out
Yeah.
fake credits and
Oh my God.
rise the ranks in our political system, and it's okay.
oh my gosh.
It's church every Thursday.
I didn't say anything specific.
This is a dream for me to be talking about all this technical stuff, and it's really awesome, and I'm so glad that we are able to have this discussion. I think we're going to have to go to another song, and then we're going to want to talk about some more heart stuff, some more Josh
Already?
stuff. I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
I know the time is flying. I know.
Oh
Can
my
you
gosh.
talk us into this next one, and then I do have another question from a listener, but we'll wait until after the song.
All right. Cool. Okay, so this next piece is also on my album. Here we go.
And what's the
And
name of that album?
it's called Freedom, and if you go to my website, themusicofjoshcohen.com, you could see the store section, and you could order a physical copy. That's always
Awesome.
better. Anyway, so this is on it. It's called Rise Up. I wrote it originally at the end of 2017. Okay, it was called Rise Up. It was the end of 2017. That's what you gotta know, and that's all I'm saying. Here we go. It is in 5/8. So if you are
Oh,
a little
gee.
bit of a music
Time
nerd,
signature.
yeah. So it's a fun one. So here we go. It's very explicitly stated. So you'll hear the 5/8, the 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2.
Okay.
Wow. That was so amazing. Josh, he's gone.
He just
I have a.
Just like
I
that,
just disappeared on
he
you.
evaporated. Like, what?
I had to turn
Oh
a
my
light
gosh.
back on because it turns off because it's on a timer, and I need
timer
to get a new
thing?
light. It's like a daylight light, and it's like my best lighting for
Oh my
doing
gosh.
live stuff, and it's got a 45-minute timer built into it.
Okay. Well, we know where we're
okay.
at in the show then, huh?
Guess so.
I don't
No,
think we're at
that-
45 minutes yet. I think I
No,
put
we're
it on
not.
before we started.
We're not. Josh, I'm putting so many things together right now. I'm like so blown away by this time that we're sharing together. And it finally hit me. I'm like, wait, he's saying Victor Wooten. Look,
Oh yeah, you're reading the music lesson. Oh,
I read this
great.
like a gazillion years ago, and it's on my shelf, like in the mix of my most favorite books that have made an inspirational difference in my life, spiritually, but also as a musician, because the two are merged. And then that connection with nature. One of the things I had written down to ask you, Josh, because I've looked at your videos. You've got so many videos where you're in some of the most beautiful places on the planet, literally playing your bass in the middle of a gigantic tree and at these beautiful national parks. And I was like, I have to ask Josh what that is, because for me, I'm super connected to nature and a musician, and I can't separate the two, and nature feeds me. So I want to hear what that is for you.
Yeah, so I went, yeah, I mean, most of the nature videos, not all of them, but a big chunk of them were filmed in Redwood National Park and state parks, and then Yosemite, and that was back in 2014, and they were all pieces that were on my first solo bass album, Out of the Basement, and 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 so I sort of built in a road trip, and my brother, who is a videographer, and my friend Micah Dubinsky came along, and I financed the majority of the trip, and that was the deal, and we went for about 6 weeks. We had a good fun time. I got permits for the parks, and Yosemite was a very difficult permit to get, actually, and you had to shoot everything in one day. And yeah, for me, I wanted to see these places, and I wanted to connect with nature, and I want to do more. I want to do more of it.
So bring us into, like, because you're going to these parks that are in the United States, but you were born in Canada, right? And I know we touched on that, but we need to make sure this is our last talk segment. We need to bring that full circle. And I know there's a question from an audience.
Questions.
Two questions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know what it was. I got enamored with these ancient forests. So the sequoias, and then the redwood national forest, national parks. I got really enamored with just this idea that these trees are so old, and they continue to grow, and if we cut them all down, we don't have 3,000 years to wait. And then there's a lot of species that depend on these old growth forests, and so I guess online and just knowing about them, I got very interested, and I think it was something like 95% of all the coastal redwoods were cut down.
We just watched, have you seen the movie Call of the Forest?
No, I got to see that. When did that come out?
We just watched it last night. It's available on Prime. You have to check it out. It syncs up with everything you're talking about. Yeah.
Man, I gotta check that out for sure.
I literally dreamt about the sequoias last night because of the movie, and now you're talking about this. There's lots of serendipity. Keep going.
So there's hopefully there's some really good footage. I read this book called Wild Trees that my cousin recommended me read, and it's about one of the main person. It's based on the true story. Is this guy named Steve Sillett, and he studies these trees, redwoods, and he studies Douglas firs, and they're all like 300 feet high. I would absolutely never want to. I think I would be scared. I can't say the word. I'd be very scared to go to do that. But I read the book a couple times, and I just thought it was so incredible that story needed to be told, and I wanted to put music to this. Now I didn't write the music with the forest in mind. It's just I had written a lot of the music first, but I wanted to film him there, and the shot that's inside a redwood. That's something you shouldn't really do too often. I asked permission, and definitely it's something they discourage too much. But I had a permit.
The tree liked it.
The tree liked it, yeah. So that was kind of where it came from, and I didn't like the fact that we were still cutting down these trees. It's one thing to grow second growth forests, and then use that wood and be careful, but we can't get the old growth back. So I think whatever's there, we need to be saving that, and the ecosystems that live in it. So I guess I wanted that message out there, and I also thought it'd be really beautiful to have that footage and then go on a trip like that. It was a great way to combine all those things, and I'm hoping to do something like it again soon.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So when you did that, did you still live in Canada, or how did you come to be living here?
Yeah. So my wife, she applied for a job in her field. She's a coastal engineer, and there was a job posting in Madison, Wisconsin. I didn't know much about Wisconsin. I knew that '70s show. That was about it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because that's definitely just like it.
It's not. Maybe parts of it. In an endearing sort of way. So that happened. That was back in 2016, and so then we've sort of set down roots here. We got a house in Madison now.
Yeah.
What a year to come here. We
Right.
won't talk about that.
We won't speak of.
We aren't going to speak of that.
It's sort of like Harry Potter.
Voldemort. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I got to ask a couple questions here before our fans have a fit. One person named Dave Grossman. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, Dave, yeah.
He wants to know where you guys can do a solo bass night. And I know you've been doing solo bass nights up until the pandemic. So my question actually to add on to that is, have you had any luck with any of the online music products where you can play without the delay, like Jazz Kazam or anything? Is anything working for you that you can do group stuff during the pandemic?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the best platform is when you're doing group stuff from all different locations. We did consider doing another solo bass night in Oakland, California, but it was just hard. It's just the thing is, I mean, just a reality with the pandemic and potentially the future that should be known is. Even if half the gigs come back, even if half the concerts come back, it might not be sustainable for a tour, because a tour has so much overhead of getting to the places and all this. So, your theater company that travels and performs at different theaters, that's not going to come back when half the theaters want to hire. It's going to come back when 90%, 95% want to actually hire the acts to come, and that's the same thing with smaller performances. So yeah, online seems to be the thing, and we'd love to bring it back. We've talked to Michael Manring and different people, and Stu Ham and people that have been part of it before, and hopefully some new players. So maybe in 2021, myself, I performed online a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic, but I've quickly sort of transitioned to teaching a lot, finishing this album, and also the transcription book. Also, there's a transcription
great.
book. And Dave, who's listening to this answer, he's got both.
Awesome.
Thank you, Dave.
So then to
And
piggyback onto that, and I'm sorry I keep cutting you off, but I want to make sure we get all these questions answered. There's
yeah, no problem.
a gentleman named Ben who would like to know what are your go-to warm-ups for bass chords? Do you have any model warm-ups? And I'm thinking maybe that book ties into that somehow.
Model warm up. No, the book is just a verbatim transcription of everything that's on the album.
Oh, okay.
I'm working on a new book called Tapping Grooves Volume 1.
Okay.
Hopefully to be released in 2021. But in terms of chord warm-ups, I mean, there's so many things you could do under the sun. I don't know if I have a favorite. A lot of times applying chords to a jazz standard and making sure that you can play root position, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion,
So do you do like
ascending,
literally,
descending.
do you do arpeggios? Is that what you're talking about on the bass?
Yeah, I
Or do
rarely
you-
do. I rarely do multiple octave arpeggios. That's not something I try to do too often. I mean, nothing, but I'll do a lot of single octave arpeggios and just really being aware of, especially as I mean, one thing to think about as a bass player is we're very root centric, the root of
Right.
the chord, the base of the chord, if you will. Um, but we have to remember that there's other notes in the chord and in the scale and extensions that are also really meaningful. And if you're taking a solo, improvising as a bass player, and you keep going back to the root, it's going to sound like you're playing a bass line or something like that. And
Yeah.
it could be good, but try to get out of that box. Start seeing the third of a chords immediately, seeing the fifth,
Okay.
seeing the seventh. So this might
So,
bore some people.
but Josh, so you're saying that you're not obviously performing as much and maybe a little bit of online stuff. But I like the fact that you've been doing a lot of teaching online. So if somebody wanted to take bass lessons from you, do they just go to your website and how does
Yeah.
that work? So you're taking new students?
They
You're
they better reach out quick.
not. Okay, you're getting full? Okay.
Yeah. I could still take on some more students, but definitely, we're at that point. Might only be taking a few more.
Okay.
Um,
Are you
But
teaching
there's some
them?
students that, in terms of like weekly or bi-weekly students, if they go to my website, themusicofjoshcohen.com,
Okay.
and then go to contact, and there's music lessons in there, and they can make
Okay.
inquiry.
And are you teaching on Zoom platform or do you do a variety of platforms with?
I've been using Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. I'm telling you, this has just been quite the
So
show.
amazing. Definitely.
I
Marcy, is
wish
that all the questions you have from the
that's
audience?
all I have from the audience. I think
Okay.
we might want to get back to, you came to America, here you are, um, and you're staying, right? You're staying?
I'm staying for at least the foreseeable future, but I might go back to Canada. I do have a lot of family there, so we do,
Yeah.
if we have kids, we might want to have
Healthcare control?
built-in. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I'm just going to
not very
say you're
political,
really,
but
really like
that's a
if
thing.
will you adopt Marcy and I if certain things, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking
There's
about.
if
Yeah, too.
it's always it's good to take pride in one's country, but pride comes with also the willingness to make changes, and you're gonna have different opinions than some other folks that you share the country with, and so you fight for those changes, and countries are always changing, and so there are policy kind of things I like about Canada for sure. But yeah, one thing is built-in babysitters, grandma, grandpa. That's one very strong option that no matter where you stand politically, and that I think we could all agree that having grandma, grandpa around is very helpful. So that is some
We
consideration.
are grandparents. We could volunteer.
Fran is here.
Oh,
Yeah, I see,
is
Fran.
Fran volunteering to be surrogate
Surrogate
grandparent?
grandfather.
Aw, that's so great.
Oh, well, this has just been great. Deb, what else do we want to talk about? I know we're kind of getting to the end of our
Yeah,
tether
Josh,
here.
let's just make sure. I know you mentioned your website a couple of times, but do that again And let us know if there's anything that we can really look forward to. You mentioned a new book that you're working on. Are there any other creative projects that are in the hopper and when they're coming?
Yes. Yeah, I have a trio slash sometimes quartet that I play with called Bad Philosopher, and we recorded our first album, which we haven't came up with the title yet, but we recorded at Audio for the Arts in Madison. They're really top of the line recording studio. They record the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra, I believe,
Oh,
there, and yeah, great team. Audrey Martinovich and Buzz Kemper do a terrific job. So we recorded our album there, and we've now selected all the takes, and now we've mixed one of them. We have a great mixing engineer. And so, yeah, it's going well so far. So that album will probably be out sometime in 2021. I'm thinking my family will get to hear it probably before then, but it'll be open to the public probably by, February or something like that. We're probably looking at, and we'll probably just do that one online rather than do a print for now until live shows are back and happening again. So you could look forward to that. Look forward to the book, bass tapping grooves, or sorry, tapping grooves, Volume 1.
okay.
Sorry. So that's going swimmingly, and yeah, I have some other shows, but they're private functions. Would you believe it? Banquets and things happening on Zoom.
That's really
Wow.
cool. That's another whole like thing that, like I said before in the beginning, people need to start thinking outside the box and um, putting themselves out there and having a little more confidence in themselves as being able to pivot and do different things as musicians. So
Right. There are certain avenues that maybe have opened up. I mean, teaching is certainly one of them. There are people with expendable income that are at home and they're looking to learn something, and so that's definitely an avenue for a lot of musicians to
mhm.
look into, and yeah, and we're a community, and so we ought to help each other out and find opportunities. And if you find the financial resources to get by, you can also look at creative endeavors that'll be good for your portfolio. And recording is one of those things. It's such an
Yeah.
upfront investment uh, that may return in the future. And that's something that different musicians can be thinking about, is like maybe now's the time to write music and record, if you can make that happen, and then
Mhm.
be releasing it, either during or after the pandemic, so that's,
Right.
Well, Josh Cohen, fantastic virtuoso player, educator, writer, composer. I don't know what else to say. I mean, you're just like a
Session
little
musician.
session
an
Like
all
like he
musician,
around
does it
good
all.
all
chap.
around good guy,
And
with a
his website
Canadian accent.
again is themusicofjoshcohen.com.
There
Right.
we
And
go.
I imagine that you're doing the social media thing too, so people can find you on Facebook,
Yeah,
right?
they can find me on facebook.com/the music of Josh Cohen, and youtube.com/user/the music of Josh Cohen. And yeah, those are the ones that I do. Oh, and Instagram, of course. So
Yep.
at the music of Josh Cohen is my Instagram.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Josh, for being with us tonight on Waupaca Local Live. Marcy, let's thank all the guys at the studio. Thanks to Josh for
Thanks.
putting the show together
Right.
in the polished way that he does to share out on all the stations. Take it over, Marcy.
Yeah, thank
You'll
you.
be probably broadcasting this show a week from Friday, I believe, but watch our Facebook page to see. And it will be a mastered, high quality sound version of our show. And then it will be available on YouTube, which it probably already is, to be honest, this version of it is.
Yeah.
This
But
version is, yes,
we'll,
that's
we'll
how it
get it
works.
cleaned up and it'll be mixed and it'll be very high quality music so that we'll be able to listen and enjoy it through speakers and headphones and all that stuff. And that will be coming out a week from Friday as well. So watch our Waupaca Local Live page for that information, and Josh will send you the links or you'll be able to pick them up.
All right.
We are so pleased that you were able to come. And one of the pandemic things that has worked out good is that we can do these shows on Zoom. You're
Came
able to,
all the way down to my
yeah.
basement.
He went down to his basement, and we're
Basement.
here in Waupaca. You're in Madison, and we had a fantastic show. And thank you for taking the time and for all that you've done in Waupaca. You are beloved here, and you've really expanded people's knowledge and just their experience of music, and it's just been great. So we really appreciate you, Josh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you,
Uh,
Marcy, and thank you, Deborah.
yep. So you're
You're
gonna play
welcome.
us
Thank
out with
you.
a song?
Yeah, so this last piece, it's also on my album. It's called Bluesy Song, and it was written for my wife, Alejandra, and I played it. I actually wrote it for my friend, Jason Kutz, to play on piano at
Uh,
for the festivities, for our first dance. So here it is, Bluesy Song.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
That was so amazing. I could feel the love in that one, Josh.
Ah, that was a very
My wife is
So-
watching upstairs, so
Aw,
hopefully she can as well.
I know she can, of course. Thank you so much. Thank you to our audience on YouTube and Facebook for sticking with us and following us through the technical difficulties earlier. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Yeah, thank you,
This
guys.
was amazing.
Yeah, thank you for everyone who's listening. This has been a blast and a great way of feeling connected,
Yeah.
Yes.
even with 707,500 cases yesterday in
Ugh.
Wisconsin. Feel
Not
connected, you all.
Yes. Take care, Wisconsin.
Yes.
Holy, please.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
All
everybody.
right. Thank you.
All right.
Be well.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.